For decades, the Swaggart name has been both celebrated and controversial in the world of televangelism. From fiery sermons to public scandals, from massive crusades to worldwide television broadcasts, the family has always been in the spotlight. But today, it's not the legendary Jimmy Swaggart making headlines. It's his son, Donnie Swaggart, who has finally broken his silence. After years of whispers, criticisms, and questions, Donnie has decided to speak out and reveal truths that many never expected to hear. The Swaggart family has built one of the most recognizable ministries in the world. For millions, the name Swaggart is tied to powerful gospel music, emotional preaching, and a message of salvation. But for others, it is tied to scandal, hypocrisy, and unanswered questions. Donnie, who grew up under the shadow of his father, has carried both the burden and the blessing of this legacy. And now, for the first time in years, he has chosen to expose everything from family struggles to ministry conflicts, from personal trials to the truth about what really goes on behind the cameras. This is not just another sermon. This is not just another interview. This is Donnie Swaggart unfiltered. His words, his revelations, and his perspective on what the world has been waiting to hear. But before we dive into Donnie's shocking statements, let us step back and understand who he really is. To know Donnie is to understand his journey, a life shaped by faith, fire, fame, and failure. For many, Donnie has always been Jimmy Swaggart's son. Yet Donnie himself has a story, a journey that explains why these revelations matter so much today. Over the years, Donnie has been at the center of both ministry triumphs and controversies. Some have accused him of living a double life, while others have defended him as a man unfairly judged because of his family's past. He has preached with passion, yet faced criticism for his style. He has led thousands in worship, yet fought battles in his personal life. And now he is speaking out, not only about himself, but also about the hidden truths that the world has long speculated about. So, what exactly has Donnie Swaggart revealed? Why has he chosen this moment, at this stage in his life, to finally break his silence? And what does this mean for the future of the Swaggart empire? In this deep dive, we will explore Donnie's revelations in detail. We will uncover the background of the family legacy, the rise and fall of Jimmy Swaggart, Donnie's role in carrying the torch, the accusations, the financial questions, the church politics, and ultimately, the explosive truths that Donnie has now laid bare. This is not just a story of one man. It is a story of power, faith, legacy, and redemption. It is about a family that has touched millions, but has also been scarred by scandals. And most importantly, it is about a son who has finally decided to speak for himself, without fear, without hesitation, and without hiding. To understand why Donnie Swaggart's words carry so much weight today, we must go back in time, back to the man who started it all, Jimmy Swaggart. Born in 1935 in Faraday, Louisiana, Jimmy grew up in poverty. Yet from those humble beginnings, he rose to become one of the most influential televangelists in American history. By the 1970s and 1980s, Jimmy Swaggart was a household name. His fiery preaching style, passionate altar calls, and unforgettable gospel music reached millions around the world. Through radio, television, and massive crusades, he built an empire that rivaled the biggest ministries of the era. His show, The Jimmy Swaggart Telecast, was broadcast in over 100 countries. His recordings sold millions of copies. For many believers, he was not just a preacher, he was a spiritual hero. In the late 1980s, Jimmy Swaggart's world came crashing down when scandalous revelations about his personal life made international headlines. Accusations of sexual misconduct, connections to prostitution, and public moral failures destroyed his reputation almost overnight. The man who once filled stadiums now faced disgrace, humiliation, and the loss of trust from millions of followers. This scandal didn't just affect Jimmy, it shook the entire Swaggart family. And at the heart of it was Donnie, Jimmy's only son. As a young man, Donnie had already been involved in ministry, but now he was thrust into a storm he never asked for. Imagine carrying a last name that once commanded respect, but suddenly became synonymous with scandal. For Donnie, this was not just a family crisis, it was a personal identity crisis. Despite the scandals, the Swaggart ministry did not disappear. In fact, it slowly rebuilt itself. The Family Worship Center in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, became the core of their operations. Through persistence, media broadcasting, and loyal supporters, the Swaggarts managed to stay alive in the world of televangelism. But the scars remained. Critics never let them forget the past, and whispers of corruption and hypocrisy followed them everywhere. Donnie Swaggart was caught in the middle of it all. On one hand, he was expected to carry the torch, to keep the ministry alive, and to defend the family name. On the other hand, he had to deal with the weight of his father's failures, the public shame, and his own struggles. Over the years, Donnie faced accusations himself, ranging from failed marriages to being too harsh in his preaching style. Some saw him as a man repeating his father's mistakes. Others saw him as a man unfairly judged because of his family legacy. Still, Donnie pushed forward. He became a regular preacher at the Family Worship Center. His sermons were broadcast on Sun Life Broadcasting Network, SBN, the television ministry that the Swaggarts launched to reach global audiences. Donnie developed his own reputation as a passionate, fiery speaker. He often spoke about sin, repentance, and holiness, drawing both admiration and criticism. But the past never truly disappeared. Whenever Donnie stood on stage, there were those who whispered, "Is he just like his father?" Whenever the ministry grew financially, there were those who asked, "Where is the money really going?" Whenever Donnie preached against sin, there were those who pointed to his own personal struggles. And this is where the story takes a turn. For years, Donnie remained mostly silent about the deeper issues, the scandals, the controversies, the behind-the-scenes battles. He defended his family, yes, but he never fully opened up about the pain, the truth, and the reality of living under the Swaggart legacy. Until now, Donnie Swaggart has finally chosen to speak out. And what he reveals is not just about himself, it is about the hidden world behind the pulpit, the struggles of being raised in a famous ministry, the secrets people never saw on television, and the truths that were often buried under polished sermons and gospel music. For those who have followed the Swaggart family for decades, Donnie's revelations are nothing short of shocking. For those who have criticized them, his words are a confirmation of long-held suspicions. And for the loyal supporters, it is a moment of heartbreak mixed with relief. Relief that at last, someone from the family has chosen honesty over silence. While Jimmy Swaggart's name was known worldwide, Donnie Swaggart's journey has always been more complicated. To many, he was simply the preacher's son. But in reality, Donnie had to carve out his own identity in the shadow of his father's massive presence. Born in 1954, Donnie grew up surrounded by church life. From a young age, he was immersed in the world of gospel music, fiery preaching, and the strict Pentecostal traditions of his family. He wasn't just watching ministry, he was living inside it. Every day, every conversation, every decision was tied to faith, church, and public image. Yet, Donnie was not Jimmy. His preaching style was different, less polished, more direct, sometimes even aggressive. Where his father often displayed dramatic emotional appeal, Donnie leaned into bold declarations. He called sin what it was. He spoke with intensity that either drew people in or pushed them away. To some, this made him a powerful preacher. To others, it made him divisive. Donnie became a regular presence at Family Worship Center in Baton Rouge. He also became a key figure on the Sun Life Broadcasting Network, SBN, where he often preached to a global audience. His voice carried across nations, touching millions who tuned in to hear the Swaggarts. But while the ministry seemed to flourish, Donnie's personal life was far from simple. One of the biggest struggles Donnie faced was in his marriages. Unlike his father, whose scandals were more public, Donnie's issues often revolved around divorce and remarriage. He was married to Debbie, his first wife, for many years. They had 3 children together. However, the marriage ended in divorce, something that sent shockwaves through the conservative Christian community that strongly opposes divorce. Soon after, Donnie married another woman, Judy. That relationship also ended in divorce. Years later, Donnie remarried his first wife, Debbie, in a highly publicized reconciliation. For many critics, this raised eyebrows. How could a preacher who spoke so strongly about holiness and morality struggle so much in his own personal life? For supporters, however, it was seen as a story of forgiveness, restoration,